Well, good morning. Have any visitors this morning? No? Yes? From where? From where?
From Cornell.
Cornell,
Boiling Springs, the other end of the state.
Oh, Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. Welcome. In the first reading today, we read from the book of Nehemiah about Ezra the priest. He's my hero. If you read the first reading, it says that he preached from daybreak until midday, and the people were attentive. Give me 6 minutes. Okay? Think about poor Ezra talking all day. I want you to open your book for a moment and look at today's gospel, so that we can have an understanding here of what is going on. Look at the gospel where the notation is. It says on the right side, you see there? It says Luke chapter 1. You see that? How can you see it if you don't have a book in your hand? Luke chapter 1, 1 to 4. Then it has chapter 4, 14 to 21. There's a gap there, right? Okay, so why? Let's talk about that for a moment. St. Luke's Gospel is one book of a two-book series, the other book being the book of the Acts of the Apostles. Luke was not an apostle. He was not a Palestinian. He was a Greek. He was not a witness to what Jesus had seen and done, but rather he was one of the second generation who took all that he had heard and, as he says, wrote it down in a logical way. And so what he did was, most likely, is he interviewed the witnesses. He went back to Mary, he went back to the people who knew and walked with Jesus, and he put everything in an orderly fashion. Now, the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke, is divided into 8 what we call narratives, 8 of them. The prologue is the very first one. And that's the first part of today's gospel. It's the beginning of the gospel. So he tells you why he's writing it. Tells you, it puts it in context. Then the ones that we skip today are the ones that we already did during Christmas. The birth of Jesus, the annunciation of the birth of Jesus to Mary, the birth of John the Baptist. We already read all those in the last few weeks. So where do we find ourselves today? We find ourselves at the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. He's come out of the desert. He's already prayed. He's already been baptized. And he goes back home to his home synagogue. Okay? So that's where the passage picks up today. So we find him in Nazareth, which is his hometown. And he goes to church, and they say, well, why don't you do the reading, you know? We still do that, you know. Oh, welcome home. Here, take the collection up. You know, we still give people jobs when they come home. Well, they did the same with Jesus. And so he stands up and he asks for the scroll, and he opens up the scroll to the passage from the prophet Isaiah, and he tells us in that passage then who he is and what it is he's about to do. So, it says he unrolled the scroll and he found the passage where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me." So I don't speak on my own, but the Spirit of God has come upon me because he has anointed me. In other words, God has set me apart. God has given me a mission. And what is that mission? And this is where it interfaces with our lives. Because his mission is our mission. His mission is what we are to be doing. So listen to what he says. He has anointed me, what? To do what? To bring glad tidings to the poor. To bring glad tidings to the poor. How does that happen? How does that happen in our life, in our personal life? How do we bring glad tidings to those less fortunate? How do we bring glad tidings to those who are in need. Challenge for us. Secondly, he sent me to proclaim liberty to captives. There are so many people who are captive. There are people in jail, yes, some who should be there and some who should not be. There are people who are held captive by foreign governments, but there are many people around in our own lives who are held captive by their own fears, by their addictions, who are held captive by all that binds them, held captive by their inability to reach out to others, held captive by their inability to be social, held captive by their inability to hear the Word of God, held captive by their inability to change.